Most people know that there are 5 main senses: sight, hearing, taste, smell, and touch. And all of these senses are important in how we perceive the world. But what would it be like if you could hear colour or taste sounds? For some people, this isn't a hypothetical situation. People with synesthesia experience this crossover of the senses all the time. Synesthesia is a relatively common but harmless neurological condition where people make connections between their senses. Some synesthetes, the name given to people with synesthesia, associate letters or numbers with a specific colour. So the letter A might be red, or the number 1 might be blue. Others associate colours or shapes with sounds, and some even make connections with their sense of taste. Can you imagine what it's like to experience the world in this way?
I think it's very difficult. So I'm doing philosophy, and there's a famous article called "What is it like to be a bat?" So you've got to imagine what it would be like to see with your ears, essentially. And I think it's very difficult to do that. Maybe you could, although I'd find it very hard to.
Extremely busy. It's busy enough when we can just hear with our ears and see with our eyes and so on. So to be able to... And they're random, as far as I'm aware, they're completely random. So all of a sudden it will be a really horrid smell that you associate with something that should be really nice, you know. So I imagine it would be very, very confusing, and a bit like hearing voices or something like that. You would really have to have a lot of control to be able to concentrate. It would make concentration very difficult, I think.
I mean, it's quite hard to describe with words because it would be such a sort of sensory phenomenon. I guess it would have advantages in the sense that you could sort of program your memory to remember things using different cues. So, I mean, maybe something as simple as revising for exams, you could use different foods or different smells or senses in a way that you can't with just sort of words and diagrams alone. But yeah, it's very hard for me to imagine without having it myself.
Scientists have been aware of the existence of synesthesia for over 200 years. But for a long time, they knew very little about the condition. But today, they can use neuroimaging to see how our senses stimulate our brain. The sensory cortex is the part of the brain that deals with the senses. Different areas of the sensory cortex are stimulated by different senses. Scientists believe that synesthesia is caused by an unusual amount of connections between these areas. In the past, synesthesia was thought to be extremely rare. But today, scientists believe between 1% and 4% of the population have the condition. These strange connections between senses all come under the term multisensory perception, and this is currently an intriguing area of scientific research. Professor Charles Spence is the head of the Cross-Modal Research Laboratory at Oxford University. He studies how multisensory perception affects the way we interact with the world, and how this can be exploited.
I'm an experimental psychologist working here at Oxford University, and I'm interested in the senses, in hearing and vision and touch, taste, pain, and how those senses get put together in people's heads. And in this building with a lot of neuroscience going on, which means we try and understand the rules that connect your eye to your ear to your nose to your mouth.
Professor Spence calls this multisensory stimulation or multisensory perception.
So multisensory stimulation or multisensory perception refers to the idea that we have 5 senses or perhaps more: hearing, vision, touch, taste and smell. And most of the time when we experience the world or products around us, they stimulate most, if not all, of the senses.
He believes we use multisensory perception all the time. When we're eating a meal or choosing a particular product in the supermarket. It is an important part of our everyday lives.
So take a lovely meal, and it's got to taste right, it should have the right aroma or smell, it needs to look visually appealing, the crunch, the sound should be right, as should the texture, the mouthfeel or the fattiness in the mouth. So all the senses are involved in the perception of food. And that maybe is the most multisensory of our experiences. But elsewhere, if I think about some sort of packaging or something, say this bottle here, it's got a certain weight, so that's got a tactile perception. It's got a feel of roughness, so that's kind of. It's also got a sound I can hear, a colour, and it'll have a smell. So all the senses are again being involved in my perception of this product and its packaging. And a lot of the work that we do with companies now is trying to help them enhance the multi-sensory appeal of what they're offering.
Professor Spence's team are working hard to improve our understanding of multisensory perception. A lot of this research is very useful for food businesses. Today, they are testing how different music can affect the taste of coffee.
We're looking at sort of synesthesia, which is this mixing of the senses. People who see coloured numbers or days of the week are the ones you see on television. But we think that maybe we're all synesthetes, kind of. So that when we give people in the lab downstairs different tastes, flavours, aromas, and we give them a choice of any instrument, any pitch of sound, just pick an instrument and a high note or a low note that goes with that taste. Say it's taste of coffee, or the smell of chocolate, or of raspberries. It sounds like a bizarre thing to do, and yet we've been doing it for years, and most of our subjects give reliable answers that are very similar to one another. So most people will say that sweet is high-pitched and probably a piano, whereas bitter tastes are kind of low-pitched and they're more brassy in nature. And when you find subject after subject who says the same thing, then you can use those insights to try and create soundtracks that synesthetically match the tastes of food.
We perceive the world through our senses. Everything we experience through our sense of touch, taste, smell, sight, or hearing. Therefore, a better understanding of how the senses work and how they work together will lead to a better understanding of the world we live in.